Hey, y'all, we wanted to invite you to partner with us in this ministry. Preacher's Hour needs your support.
In order to make more and better content, we need you, yes, you listening to this right now, to become a patron.
Choose the tier that best fits your preferences and help us make theology for our context.
Thanks and enjoy this episode.
All right, guys, what up? Welcome back to Preacher's Hour. It's your boy, Jeff Copeland. I'm joined by...
What's going on, guys? John Gerodos.
Guys, John was gone for a while. He was gone for 6 days.
I was.
And
so if you can hear the jet lag in my voice...
He's big tired.
See, that's just at the bar super low for so many people, and they're like, bet, well, I ain't going to watch this episode now.
Okay.
Well, the person we have on today is all the reason you should actually listen and watch this episode.
If you're watching this, you're excited, and you should be. If you're not, you should be.
But hey, shout out also, by the way, if you are Spotify, get the listens up, Spotify, Apple, what are the other ones? I don't know if there's anything else.
There's a few other ones.
Okay, anyway. Check out the YouTube page as well.
Watching us.
There is some great work, and I just need to shout this out. We have Caden behind the lens, the screen. He's holding it down. He is jumping back and forth. He's jumping through hoops, and we just got to give him a big shout out because this video wouldn't be without him. So appreciate you, Caden.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
So yeah, man, we hear this is you should be hearing this or seeing this after our boy Yuya was on.
Come on now. And you did not catch that episode. Go back and watch it.
I'm excited about it. And it hasn't come out yet, but I wish it would have came out by the time we're recording this. But anyway, we got another amazing guest. So we are just
it's been happening.
You guys with guests left and right, and you should be excited because you have to just deal with me and John all the time. Go ahead and introduce our guest, my friend.
All right. It's a privilege of mine. I've gotten the opportunity to know this gentleman, sir, for quite some time now. Here's a little bit about him, his bio, okay? This is like super professional, guys. Here we go. We have a bio because he is up at that level right now.
Wow.
So he is currently a adjunct professor at Fresno Pacific University. He has his MDiv also from the same seminary that Jeff and I are. I'm a graduate of almost. Jeff is to be also as well.
We got some time.
He's currently entering his 15th year in ministry as serving as a pastoral staff, and he has served at 6 different local churches. This today is going to be Mr. Brad Isaak. What's going on, Brad? How are you?
Thank you guys for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited.
Yeah, well, the problem is everybody going to be expecting a bio now. You're our first bio.
Well, he told me, man.
I did because I was like,
I didn't even send him the link or anything, man.
Maybe
there's a little audio, man. We'll just do an audio link.
Hey, we'll put the link in the description.
Nice. Real,
the link in the description.
But,
I love it.
Yeah, we're excited. It's my first time meeting Brad, but he's already.
I met him before, but I didn't make an impression.
Yeah,
I told John about that. Remember that, John?
You did actually.
I did.
You did say that.
I was like, okay, that's all right.
He made me look horrible in front of everybody.
You said forgettable impression
right
here.
Man,
that's it.
Well,
come on now.
That's all right.
Hey, I'm excited to have you on.
We have redemption though.
I'm glad we can make it right. So this is not my first time meeting them guys. You heard it first. But
hey, I'm excited to have you on, Brad. Hey, so to kind of give a background why we wanted to have Brad on is because I've gotten the opportunity, at least this past year, to be able to build a relationship with him. I've met him actually it was through Youth for Christ kind of connections with all the different youth pastors I work with in the town, Fresno. If you're not watching this, you're not from there. And through that, let me just give this. I meet... Oh, dang, I'm going to put myself on in the spotlight. I'm in danger here. It's all right. No one probably listens to this anyway. I meet with a lot of different pastors in town. And some are excited to meet with me. Others, most definitely probably not so much. And so I've gotten a range of different emotions. And sometimes I can sit down and I can tell, okay, you ain't trying to be here. Yeah. You don't want to be here. I feel like I forced it on you. And then you got some other guys who I just click with right away, and I can just really appreciate their heart for the ministry, their in-depth of knowledge and wisdom that they have to offer. And like there's a difference between someone who's like in ministry for the sake of just like doing it to try to affirm or trying to get something out of it as a benefit for themselves. But then there's like the actual category of individuals, which unfortunately I've yet to still meet a whole lot of them, if I'm being completely transparent and honest. And I'm trying to form myself into being one of these people as well, put myself also in the spotlight. And this is the kind of person where it's like, I truly believe and I am passionate about the place that I'm serving in. I see Jesus showing up time and time again. And it isn't the sexy, the beautiful, the stage lights, the 1,000 people kind of thing, the smoke machines, whatever it is, the LED lights. Sorry, Caden, if you're into all those things.
Nah, it ain't in the budget.
But it's genuinely the real, what I would call boots on the ground ministry.
Yeah.
And so this is a person I've grown to respect a whole lot. And so I just wanted to have you, Brad, up on our episode or on our podcast, because I think there's a whole lot that our listeners could benefit from hearing more about your story, who you are, the current work that you have done, the work you've done over the past years. So I'm super excited to have you on this. A little bit about the background.
He's a Hoover guy, so he's got to be legit.
Okay.
Shout out to the
Well,
Pates.
what does that mean?
If you know, you know.
Okay.
Dang, bro.
He's
I'm
I'll
gonna
leave
find
it
out
at
one
that.
day, bro, and then I'm gonna take pride in it.
Hoover Pates, baby. You know what I'm saying?
I'll leave it at that.
Let's go.
Yeah. So help us out, Brad.
Yes.
So I've gotten the opportunity to know you. Apparently Jeff doesn't know who the heck you
Yeah,
are.
that's all right.
It's all right.
Everybody knew him except me.
You're
Oh, you
right.
don't have him, Brad?
Yep.
Even you, he was like, oh, Brad? I was
Yep.
like,
And Jeff
I
is
feel
like,
like
who?
I'm left
You
out.
guys
Let's
got
not
great
be
people.
cool.
Man.
I'm not very cool.
You guys got great people.
Well, you about to find out right now.
Yes. I'm
Hey, Brad,
excited.
tell us a little bit about yourself. So I don't know. Today you're a pastor,
Yeah,
right?
Pastor
okay.
Brad.
Where
Yes, sir.
are you pastor at
So
right now?
I'm pastor in North Fresno Church. It's a
Okay.
Mennonite Brethren Church associated with Fresno Pacific.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we got a number of different good thinkers over there, good
Yes.
practitioners. About 55-year-old church. So it's
Okay.
an institution, but 3 of the churches I
Wow.
served at have been church plants.
Okay.
Okay.
So day
Okay.
one, startup environment.
So you've seen it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
interesting, different kind of spaces.
Okay. Okay.
Even here within our Central Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe even on that, I mean, I really want to go back. Actually, we'll come back to that. Let's
Yeah.
put a pin on that. And we'll
Yes,
go
sir.
back to the church planting because that's very relevant
Yes.
for Jeff and I and those
Yeah,
who
we're
know
on
us
it
in this
right
season
now.
of
Mad
life.
respect to you guys.
But so today you're a pastor, and it sounds like you've been in ministry and serving
Mhm.
people for a long time now. But has this always been the guy that people have known, the
Nah,
Pastor
man.
Brad? You seem
Nah.
very holy.
No,
And,
like that's the interesting thing. So, I was at a dinner party, at a Christmas dinner party, man, and I was sitting next to a childhood friend who I got sat next to, and I was talking to him for a long old time. And about an hour into conversation, he's like, "Bro," he's like, "Fine." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Fine." He's like, "You're not quite the jerk you were." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "When you were a kid," he's like, "You was the jerk." So I try and explain this to my students. You know, it's like, by grace I am what I am, and those who know me best are like, it's a long way to go.
Yeah.
But like. I always tell, because kids extrapolate, like these high school kids, they extrapolate, and they're like, "Oh, I would have like rocked with you in high school." Like, no, bro, like I would have been sitting in the corner, bro. Like you wouldn't have picked me at all. And if you did, you would have regretted it.
so
know?
like you had like a bad attitude. Like
Bro,
what was it? You were just
bro,
a punk
I was
kid,
insecure,
or
man.
what?
So like
Oh,
it
okay.
manifested in different ways. I was
Okay.
always smart and like real witty,
Okay.
so I was good with
So
the
you
words.
were a nerd.
I was
He
good with the
sounds
words.
like me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You were a nerd.
Oh,
You and
yeah.
Jeff.
That's how
Okay.
I was.
But dude, like I graduated early from high school too, and I was small, so I was young and small.
That's a
So-
hard. That's a hard
Bro,
combination.
my gridiron dreams ended about 12 years old.
Come on now. You
Bro,
did not
12
have
years old.
gridiron jeans.
Bro, I did, and
John,
I was
let
so
him just-
small.
Not
Listen,
everybody's you, bro.
Listen, bro.
Big old-
Here's the thing. Yeah, not everybody's doing that. Now, I was 12 years old, and they said I could play with the younger kids because of my weight, and so but my parents didn't want to do the physical.
Okay.
Stuff.
Okay.
So that was it.
So the people who know you from your past, you
Yeah.
weren't necessarily
No,
the
I
guy
wasn't
that
a great
people were
kid,
trying
man.
to
I wasn't a great
embrace.
kid. I was in the
So tell us
church,
a little
but
bit
it was
about
tough.
that. Yeah, did you grow up in the church?
Yeah,
Not
yeah. So I
church?
grew up in the church, born and raised, very conservative environments. I take something beneficial from each church that I've been part of. Sometimes, right? Like we grow up and we're like, you know, I don't like that form of Christianity or whatever.
Sure.
But then we realize, like, bro, like I know a lot about the Book of Numbers. And you're like, how is that? It's like, well, because I had to sit through that
That is
exegetical
not common.
preaching.
That's
You
good,
feel me?
Because I have
Or-
not finished the book.
You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
just whatever it is,
Yeah.
or like,
Yeah.
oh man, Awana, like we missed some things or whatever. But it's like, you know what? There's some of those verses that have stuck. It's a
Yes.
familiarity.
okay.
So
Come on.
so I'm appreciative for some of the things that I picked up, but I also saw a lot of church hurt growing up, and that kind of stuck with me. When I went into undergrad, I was hedging my bets because I was a ministry major and a business major.
Oh, he was like,
You
let
feel me?
make- Man,
I wasn't sure.
Just in case, guys.
And bro, I
plan
graduated
B.
high school graduate class of 2008. So right into the
Almost 7.
recession, bro.
Almost
You,
7.
so you
So
know,
freshman
right
year of college
into
was
the
over.
recession,
Yes.
bro. So it was like
Sheesh.
nobody's hiring. You know what I mean?
Sheesh.
So I was like, I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
yeah. I mean,
So it's
I'm
an
sorry,
interesting
guys.
time.
I said I didn't graduate I graduated a little bit farther down
Yes,
the
John,
line,
that's a
and
little
so
baby.
That's okay.
so I'm just curious. And this is
Yeah.
nothing. None of this is off track, but I'm just curious in
Yeah.
general. Like 2008, what was like your kind of mindset? Were you guys scared to like go into college? Like I guess it's a question for both
I
of you guys
mean,
even too.
I lived at home.
Okay.
And it wasn't as expensive as it,
Mhm.
like I went to Fresno State, and it was
Mhm.
my
Okay.
first semester. It was $1,600 a semester. By the time I left, it was like $3,200,
Yeah.
and it just went up every
That's right.
single
It
year.
felt like that.
Right,
Really
but
did.
early on, it was like, okay, cool. I'm have the safety net of my parents' home, so I don't have to worry
Yeah.
about like food or
Yeah, that
whatever.
helps.
Yeah.
And then like Obama just got elected, bro. I was like, man, we can do anything. As black folks, I was real excited. And then obviously, it went how it went. And I don't.
Jeff,
I'm not
go,
political.
yep,
Okay.
go
All
ahead.
right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I remember the recession. It didn't really click for me because I was still young.
Yeah.
My life wasn't really upended.
Yeah.
So I was just, my mom kind of, her like retirement got a hit, but she was able to recover.
Gotcha.
But I just remember like hearing about it, how crazy it was, and just be like, dang.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it didn't affect church life. It didn't affect,
Gotcha.
me
What
in
about
that
you?
direction.
Well,
You were all like,
But you was,
So I'm the oldest
Yeah.
of 6 kids.
Oh, wow.
And I was graduating, so I started college at 16. Is that right? Something like that. And my dad's single family income or single parent.
What did you do
income,
for a living?
in like insurance industry.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when people stop buying homes, they stop buying insurance.
Right.
Oh.
You feel me?
Dang.
And so it was an impacted industry based on commission. It was a tough time.
Huh.
Food stamps and all that.
Sheesh.
So what kind of
it's
weight did
tough.
that put on you?
Well,
Like-
well, the thing is like you come from that and you have some maybe love for the church and
Mhm.
Jesus, but you're also like, bro, like there's realism. Like you know
gotta
the
eat.
value of money.
Yeah.
Like you might
That's
be
facts.
playing Santa Claus when you go home at Christmas. So there was a lot of benefits that I had, and a lot of them came through programs. I'm extremely grateful. Like people ask that stereotypical question, like, "What's the best gift you've ever got?" And for me, it's like an education, bro. Like, because my dad has like an AA from Reedley,
Okay.
and that's it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
okay.
So did you feel the need to like? Okay, this is
like I got,
but like for me, like I come from a family where no one has college experience or anything like that. So I was like, I mean, honestly,
Your
I just
first
went. I just went to. I told you guys this before on the podcast. Like I went to JUCO because I wanted to play football.
Yeah.
And then God snatched football out, and I was like,
Dang.
well,
You're
I
still
know
there.
successful, whatever that mean is, or good people
Yeah,
are supposed to go to
yeah.
college.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
let me finish this, and then here I am years later with a
yeah.
master's.
Yeah.
But so
But
was
you
that
grew
a-
to love it. I mean, you grew to love it.
I did, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
crazy because I'm not like people think like you made this comment about me, but I don't see myself as someone who's super brilliant or
annoying,
smart or
'cause
things
John
like
is
that.
very
Smart,
smart, but he
I-
doesn't think
he's
he
wicked
is.
smart.
But I would say in a very particular area. is where I would
Listen,
say-
all
Life.
intelligence.
Life.
Listen, fam. All intelligent people are intelligent in their thing.
That's true.
Right.
But then nah, bro. But genius is being able to connect your thing to a lot of things.
Yeah, and there's
That's
very
what it
few
is.
genius,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of intelligent people, which
Mhm.
you are, and I would consider myself.
You work.
But I ain't no genius.
You'll get
Okay, I'll say.
Yeah.
You know what the funny part? I'm sitting
Graduating
here,
early, that's a genius.
Nah,
I'm like
that's-
sitting here, and I know both of you because you guys don't
Yeah.
know each other as well.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm like, this is the white Jeff, and this is the black
That's-
Jeff,
bro,
or this
that's-
is the
that's-
the white
Black
the
Brad.
black Brad, and this is
Yeah.
the white Brad.
No, I'm listen.
Oh,
He's
I take that
talking-
as a compliment.
He's
bro.
talking, and I'm like, I can relate. to
Yeah,
that.
so I was
we
like,
coulda
y'all
hung
are
out,
just
man.
like
We
each
coulda
other.
hung out.
A lot of things you're saying
Man.
because the insecurity, the
Yeah.
way it and like.
Well, can I
being-
ask you guys a question?
Yeah,
Maybe this
yeah.
is and push back me. This is a
I
little too
will.
much.
Help me out.
Mhm.
Because when I was young, I had all kinds of insecurities, whether it be
Mhm.
actually like the money, not my parents being around.
Mhm.
I remember even one time. Oh, dang, I'm exposing myself
ahead,
up on this
expose
stuff.
it.
I feel like Tim Ross or something up on here.
Okay.
I remember even one time we had a carnival, and my mom, the house ended up getting foreclosed. We lived right across the street from the elementary school that I would go to.
That's brutal.
And my mom, because of her situation, she's not addicted to drugs anymore, but at that season, that time she was, so she would sleep all throughout the day. And so the carnival was during the day, and so I remember us going to the carnival with no money.
Wow.
and being like, just kind of walking around, and I have a twin sister, and so we
Right.
would go and kind of do games, and then we had a friend of hers, like, recognize we were there, and we had no money or nothing, and she ended up giving us money, and I still remember and recall that.
Wow.
But I also remember not just like the generosity of that person, but also the embarrassment I
Mhm.
felt
Yeah.
of like
It's both. bro.
everyone here has their parents and they have what they need. It's supposed to be a fun, exciting time, what's going on at school. And I just felt like, man, I don't have what the other kids have. Like, and so that continued over the years, be like an insecurity that continued to push on me, and then the reality of not having a father present, as I got more involved in sports and stuff like that. Anyway, I was just curious about you because you guys both brought up. Look at this. I'm interviewing both of y'all.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go.
No, man.
For maybe for both of you guys talked about like some or certain insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you? Maybe are you okay if you're comfortable fleshing that out?
I mean,
a little bit?
because basically, like, there's a lot of ways that you trying to overcompensate for different things, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, maybe I can't go to every social gathering. Because why? Because movies cost money, like you're saying. Gas costs money to get there. You got little siblings. You trying to balance that as an older child. So, so then maybe when you show up a little loud. To the ones you do show up at, you're gonna show up a little bit loud.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Trying to make up for it.
Or maybe you really focus on appearances.
Yeah.
Let's say, because you realize, look, our friends are middle class. We are not middle class.
Yeah.
But if you shop on clearance at Burlington or TJ Maxx,
Come on, Burlington.
all of a sudden you can do pretty well.
That got me
through
high school, man.
Bro, that's what I'm saying.
Come
And you
on.
can look apart.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But you feel that imposter syndrome early. You feel me? So
Yeah.
so it's interesting. And then you undervalue, when we're insecure, we undervalue the things that we're good at because we assume everyone's good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So if me and Jeff have an easy time at school, and let's say you didn't at that time, let's say, well, I just assume that you're not trying. Like, maybe it's actually like a gift that I'm actually good at this thing. And then that thing that you're good at, football, like, that's easy for you. And that's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
So I think in our insecurities, we undervalue and we don't have gratitude and appreciation for the things we do have because we're focusing on the scarcity. And so sometimes when we speak out of those giftings, you're a jerk in class, let's say.
Yeah.
You're arrogant with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that at least for
Talking
me,
good.
I didn't handle the gifts that I had well, and I didn't handle my insecurities.
And it's like growing up in church, on top of all that, like I look back and I'm like, man, like I wish I would have valued the things that God valued in me.
Wow.
And I'm so concerned with what everybody else values.
It's true.
For
Right.
sure.
So like being smart in school was not valuable.
Sure.
Socially.
Facts.
Right. Being a good athlete was, being popular, having money. Like, so we weren't poor, but we grew up around rich white people. Right? I went to a white school. So there's so many insecurities that come with that. Like, you're not attractive to most of the girls because they're white and you're black. So then you think, well, I don't know what I need to do to get attention. And then I was a little kid. I was very small. I have a twin brother who's like way taller than me. And so I just like didn't handle being an insecure little kid who was smart and who became afraid to be smart in public because it wasn't valued. And you kind of get looked at, well, you're a little nerd. I'm like, okay, crap, I can't be a nerd. And so you're just, and then like getting to high school, like you said, and like not having the money necessarily to keep up fashion wise with everybody.
Yeah.
But then there's Burlington and they only got so many sizes. They got that
That's
double
right.
X and I'm a little
That's right,
kid.
bro.
So I'm in my stuff, but it's too big. So you feel like a
Bro,
poser.
I can go through the
and-
clearance section fast, bro, because they got my pant size they got about 3 choices each time. You know what I mean?
Let me tell
That's
you.
about it.
And it's like the whole time you go on Sunday, you go to church and like you're like living 2 different lives.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're not
And
connecting.
I
the
do think
things.
most people, I think most people feel that though, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that we're all insecure in different ways, and church plays on it in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you help me
Well,
out?
because I think we all feel like multiple selves, right?
Okay.
The school self, home self,
We're not
this
integrated.
group, that group, this team. Even you see kids like within a sport, it's like who they are on their club team versus that they're not the best one, versus their school team where
not
they are the
very
best
good.
one.
I
You know what I
wasn't
mean?
good
And they
at
carry
either one.
themselves, let's say, differently.
Yeah.
So I think that we see that chameleon nature, but some of us really, really tap into that, and maybe we're good at it. So like if you're good at it, bro, if you're good at playing the church game early, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
So going back to so I know you jumped into like your undergrad and stuff, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna back you up
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a little bit. I'm curious because that's very interesting. I found out. So is this a fair observation of what I hear you saying? So you kind of experienced at least a middle class-ish life at one
That would
time,
be the appearance, yeah.
and then the opposite, like
yeah,
was
it
very
was a
hit
demotion
real.
from that, yeah.
Okay, so because that's 2 extremes, really.
Well, like
still
I'll give
early
you
in
I'll give
life.
you one, right? So like we lived in a house. Now there's 6 kids. We live in a house, but then we have relatives living with us in that house because we the ones with the house. You feel me?
I see.
And everybody's on food stamps.
Mm.
Like that was years of my existence.
Wow.
So You know what I mean? So it has a certain appearance, but it's a little bit.
Yeah, no.
Again, be grateful for it, but also like
there's so many layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what has that situation, like, has that impacted you? Has it formed you at all? Have you, I mean, the work you're doing
and
now?
like how you go about ministry? Because I really want to know about your ministry, like work. Like, have you been a youth pastor?
Yeah.
Are you currently a youth pastor?
Yeah. So across the 6 different churches that I've worked at, I've always had youth in my job description.
Okay.
But last few spots have either included something else, or it's been more of an associate type pastor where I'm running youth. But then in a church plant, right? It's like your job description don't matter,
janitor,
right?
You
That's right.
Handle the
you're
technology.
doing different things. You're in a preaching team. You're teaching a Bible study. You're running small groups, whatever that is. And so a lot of those sort of generalist type of tendencies as a pastor and practitioner have sort of shaped me in some different contexts. So
yeah. So can you give us the idea? Because again, so it sounds like, again, correct me if I'm wrong. So white, conservative.
Yeah, for sure.
Certain kind of denomination specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like non-denominational, but very evangelical.
Okay.
Like very evangelical.
That's helpful, right? And then, so these church plants that you were part of after the fact, what was the makeup description of these?
So my wife, Delilah, she's Mexican American. She's second generation, both sides. And the first church that we worked in as a married couple, we were running like children's and youth. And it's like, hey, come run children's and youth. We're young. We're in undergrad. And what they meant was it was a bunch of like old people that had moved into this tiny little church that was literally made out of adobe out in Selma in the barrio. Like, and it was literally made out of adobe because we had a ball go into the wall and the plaster breaks and we're like, what is it? It was literal adobe bricks, bro.
Whoa,
like for real.
That's
because that's what like workers had built. Like they're like, what, we need a space of worship. And it wasn't that church anymore, but it had been this old building.
Wow.
And so they said, we want you to work with children and youth. They had no children or youth in the church. None. Like zero.
So they wanted you to bring them.
Yeah. So we had to go out into the neighborhood with the Spanish English flyers. First day of VBS, we had 0 kids show up. And that's how we started, bro. That's how my ministry started. So I was out there.
Keep going.
I was out there for like almost a decade. And we sort of watched that grow. And then eventually we lived in a little parsonage, 550 square foot house across the street from that church.
Okay.
So that was one church plant. And then I was also part of sort of a charismatic-ish church plant out in Clovis, which was very different. And then a church plant called Prodigal Church, which meets here in town on a school facility. And so 3 different churches. Yeah. But all very interesting, man, because you can see the whole story. You feel me? So like the amazing thing in a church plant, right, is like I remember when you came, and I remember when your cousin came, and I remember when his girlfriend came. You can see the spider webs growing out in these interconnections. It's kind of a beautiful thing that you miss later on. You just assume everybody was there when you got there, and you don't really understand. Like that person was their first day too, or whatever it may be. So it's kind of a beautiful thing to see those things develop, but also to feel the grind. And not all of those churches ended up being viable as long-term ministries. So,
Yeah. No, sorry. I'm just sitting there with that you even explained that, because I think for me and Jeff, the Garage Church, like we've seen it from
we're 2 years old.
The 2 years old, and then even we're sitting here. This is a Sunday when we're recording this, and we had. I'm not even gonna say how many people. It was a huge amount. It was
a big Friday night. It looked like too.
And so it's just kind of like we've seen the growth and progression happen, and I've never thought about that web of individuals. And you get to see the families grow, and when people get connected,
people get married,
like babies. It's a beautiful thing, and I think that's oftentimes, if I can speak to that for just a second as well. Like, I think, and it's partly our fault. I will say as a pastor, we can often make the wrong things seem to be the most important things, right? So it's
so what would be some wrong things?
Ooh, hey, come on now.
Like what would be some factors? You talking metrics or values or what?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the metrics in the sense of like how much income we have coming in, how many people we have in a space, how well of a communicator am I at in this season, how many oohs and ahs did I get,
how was the message?
Where's the actual building, what does that look like, is it fancy, is it cute, are people wanting to come in, are people impressed by it, how many, even these good things, how many, again, I wouldn't even say all these are all bad things, but how many baptisms we had, how many people raised their hand and said, yes, I want to follow Jesus, right? And we make a big, like, this is the most important thing. And then I think we often forget and overlook like the beautiful things that are happening in the middle and in the details of all those things. Like kids really beginning to actually come to the knowledge and understanding of who God is as a loving, caring father, right? Or even simply like people like going through the different life changes and stages of their life. Like we've gotten the opportunity even in youth ministry now. I've been around long enough to see kids literally go from freshmen in high school all the way now, and they're sophomores in college, and they're serving in their local churches and helping people give their life to Jesus.
That were in our Youth for Christ thing. Now they're married.
Isn't that wild?
Like,
literally.
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's sometimes like, I think it's easy to kind of dismiss those things, but that's such a beautiful thing that I think the church, and again, I'm not talking about like a box, like Pastor Sean said this morning, but the actual people get the opportunity to form and do that actually allows for healthy relationships and community, because that's really what we're doing. When God talks about, I'm going a tangent, sorry, y'all.
That's cool. I'm going to follow up on this.
God has called us to be menders, reconcilers, right? Those who restore the broken things of this world. And all of it ties back to a relationship. I truly am passionate, and I believe that. You study enough in-depth theological work, and what it comes back to is this idea of like this hindered or broken relationship, whether it be between us and God, us and each other, or us and the ground, like the land itself. A lot of people,
our own selves,
right? And I hate the whole idea that it's a progressive thought of whatever that means based off your subjective definition of that. That like our care for the environment or for the earth is like not a call for the Christian, but it's just for the crazy lefties or whatever it is, the tree huggers.
A lot in the prophet about that.
Which, by the way, I just found out the statistic. You actually know where some of the highest suicide rates are among environmentalists, actually. And I go fact check.
Despair, straight up.
Go fact check me on that. But that's the stat I heard, and I think what they implied was part of it was because there is such an anguish and a hurt and a pain because of all the evil that's happening.
Well, is that, and it's the sense that those people who are most passionate about those things feel they're being ignored, right? Too. And so it's
100%.
like the thing I care about is not working, and then I'm raising my voice and nobody's listening. So it's tough, right? And there's a lot of despair out there though with that.
And so I think what I was just trying to and I'll move on with a tangent, the relationship, like when Jesus died on the cross, like what happened with the theological term, like the atonement, right? Like the different theories or thoughts behind it all tied back to a relationship that has been hindered or broken, and that need for that relationship to be repaired or restored and brought together. And I don't mean sense this weird kind of, you put some glue on a wound. It's like a true healing and a mending, where you could even say, like, I have one on my hand, like a scar is there, so it's obvious it's not full healing yet until we see Jesus come again. But it is this beautiful thing where it says we've witnessed healing happening. And so that's why I think now, going back to the whole thing, is just like church planning. I think that's what we've gotten to see over the last couple of years, and it's easy to get caught up in other things, but it's like beautiful restoration is happening. Beautiful relationships are coming back as they ought to be. I've experienced it in my own life, and I'm not even going to go into details of that, but I've been able to see it too. And I don't know how we got on that tangent,
no, it's special,
but that was
church planning is special.
Oh, because you're such a deep thought, like a deep thinker, like that just made me go.
So I want to get into a little bit more of this.
Please do.
So the 6 churches, you've done youth ministry, so. And then obviously, like you were talking about your background and how that's kind of formed you onto this, like this version of who you are right now. Right.
Sure.
So, and we can circle back, or I'm just going somewhere right now. But
go ahead.
So what specifically we wanted to talk on this episode, and we're like 30 minutes in.
Yeah, I know.
It's been great.
You have 3 preachers all at a table with mics.
But it's like, so what, you obviously work with youth.
Sure.
Right? So what, number one, makes you passionate about them, and what should people who are listening or watching like know, and why should they care about youth and the next generation?
So I think there's a few things, right? And I'll be honest, like when I became a youth pastor, because I was a teenager myself to some extent, so at first it's like you feel like you're raising, it's like little brothers and sisters in your youth group, like really, and like you almost could have went to, like you would have been in high school, they would have been in middle school. You know what I mean? So like it was my own generation, and I was like, at first it felt like this, like, bro, like mom and dad don't get it, but like we get it, right? Like this is Jesus. But then all of a sudden few years in, something changed. Why? Because it's another generation. And now I'm like, hey, you guys get it, right? And they're like, oh gosh, that's part of the problem. Like, I'm like, what? You're into this ideal, right? And they're like, we're not asking that question. You feel me? Now, right now with Gen Alpha coming up, and this is all the thing with youth ministers right now, are trying to figure that out. And really, you don't have information on a generation till the marketers tell you, until they turn 18, and then you can really figure it out. But this is now my third generation. So millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. And having been in it week by week through that time, you have two problems when it comes to youth ministry and trying to figure it out. If you really care, if you really want to see the faith passed on to the next generation, right? If you really want to see God do what God is going to do, and if you really want to see around the corner, you better be working with the next generation, because they're the ones who are already peeking around the corner. And so one thing is some things in youth ministry are related to what we would really think of in terms of adolescence. It's developmental, right? So you coming into your identity, you get in a little bit of separation from your home, you're growing into this, you asking some big questions, your brain's moving, you got hormones, all that stuff. So that is what those are the things I would call the perennial pieces, right? And even those things have changed, bro. Early onset, hormones, all this, sooner and sooner. And it's interesting. And then later and later, like full adulthood, right? But so even that stage, that stage biologically has shifted. So that's interesting to keep in mind. So there are these things we can say, look, hey, bro, if you're 13, you're probably thinking about someone and whatever. But also, each generation is different. Come on, bro. And each generation, let's say I outpaced my parents on the internet. You feel me? Like I was better at the internet than them. Well, these kids are better on their smartphones. They better on social media. They understand things first through a digital format. There's a lot of things that are different. So when we come at trying to understand the next generation, we can say, hey, look, I can think back to my own adolescent experiences, but that's not enough. That's good. You feel me? Because when I get parents or people that have been out of it for a while and that haven't been in it week by week through the generational changes, what they really want is to implement the things that help them find Jesus when they were 13. And they want that, let's say a parent, for their 13-year-old. I resonate with that, but guess what? Guess what? That's not going to work for them. And Jesus is still working, still calling your 13-year-old. But it's going to look different than what I want, what I imagine, what I had on paper, what the youth ministry books that I read, in college say. It's going to look different. So, and that's even without getting into some of the things that you guys are really good at, which is the basic like zip code by zip code analyses and neighborhood dynamics and real contextual incarnational on the ground. What is God doing? In particular, apartment complexes. Because you know what I mean? So even at that kind of bird's eye view, though, you want to be asking the question, look, what is happening developmentally? How can I relate to that? But then also what is different? What is truly different and novel? Because there are novel things. And you want to pay attention to both if you're going to figure out how it is that you can encourage what God is doing.
That's good. Well, can I ask you this question? I'm just curious, Brett, as you're sitting here talking, and I can see the passion light up, right? It comes fast. But like most people are not passionate about working with 11 to, let's say, 19-year-olds.
Oh, it's brutal.
Like it is like, I got it. I got this calendar appointment. I got cookies in the oven at home. Like whatever it is, right? So why are you though passionate? What's kept you this long? Because again, you said you've been doing this for some time. The current context you're in, and honestly, most people would observe your kind of like credentials, education, and be like, why aren't you a youth assistant pastor or a lead pastor somewhere? Like, what are you doing?
So I'm going to be so honest with you. There were times that I thought I was done, and not from a traumatic way, but like I'm kind of done. I don't know if I want to read a book on Gen Alpha right now. I don't know why, because I mastered like the literature on Gen Z, and I know how long that took, and I know how different they really were. And I remember when Snapchat came out, and I was trying to figure that out, and like, bro, I don't think this is redeemable for youth ministry. And I remember when it was TikTok. Like I remember literally everyone in each of these different iterations of students trying to figure things out, and so. One of the things, though, that really has kept me in the game right now is when I went into the full-time ministry position I was in, the idea was, look, bro, you're going to be able to do the youth ministry stuff based on experience and some of the gifts that my congregation has. Like, you can be able to do this, let's say in 20 hours this week, you can be able to do general pastoral stuff in the other 20. And I was like, that's great, right? I'll be able to do both, right? Because I come again from church planting, bro. You doing 2 church plants at once and seminary, right? You like, I get to be in one place and they have an office with Wi-Fi.
Hey,
with Wi-Fi, that's crazy. Like, you get to submit assignments. You know, waiting on the Starbucks Wi-Fi to like go through for you. So the thing though that kept me in it. Some of this we can relate to the pandemic, but I don't think that's it. I saw things begin to happen with the next generation that I was like, this is amazing. This is really amazing. And Jesus is doing something. And I think that like when we met, and John, like between these podcasts, John is out like meeting with like real in flesh human beings and like actually praying for people and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons I respect John in addition to his erudition and the things he's reading between the text, right? But, you know, I just saw Jesus doing something and I was like, I'm here. And one of the ways that I honestly believe that I could be part of what God is doing among his people and missionally is I was like, bro, like what's happening with the youth is the thing right now. Like that's the thing. That's where we're catching some wind in the sails that are going to help. Maybe it's just overcorrect. Like maybe we've overcorrected meaning, and this is just helping us to align
get
better.
back to balance.
Yeah, maybe that's all it is. But there's something real that's happening. And I'm learning about God and I'm encountering Jesus and I'm having to trust God like on the daily, working with these young people. So that's what keeps me in it. Man. And I tell the kids all the time, like, you want to know why I'm here? Like, I'm here for you. And honestly, like this ain't fun for me. This ain't the first time I taught on the Beatitudes with 13-year-olds.
Come on.
You know, like it's the same notes in my notes. It's the same notes, bro, as last time. I liked it. Yeah. But you know what, bro? Hearing, bro, the like perfect example. Bro, I read from Luke. I was doing the Beatitudes, and I go, I literally read this from Jesus. Blessed are the poor. And this kid in the front row goes, wait, so if I'm poor, I'm blessed? Like, that's why I'm in it. You feel me? Yeah. Because it's new for that kid.
Yes.
And guess what I get to say based on all my seminary education and everything else? Yes. Like, well, what does that mean? Like, yeah, it means yes. Like Matthew said, poor in spirit and whatever. Yeah. But the idea is, bro, and you get to see that breaking out with all these young people, and many of them from unchurched backgrounds, which is totally different than mine.
Man, yeah,
ooh, bro,
listen.
It's exciting. It's exciting what God is doing, and people ain't seeing it. It's overlooked right now. It's overlooked right now, and it's shaky.
I'm about to get real.
But man, if we could throw us an investment, I tell kids this all the time. If I could invest in people, bro, I'd invest in you. I'd invest in you right now.
Okay, so let me kind of go off real quick.
Go ahead.
Because he said so much good stuff. So the developmental piece, I think, is underrated, and I'm a big like nerd for this kind of stuff, right? So we're seeing, and like I'm still pretty new to Gen Alpha. Sure, I've spent so much time.
They haven't been there that long.
I spent so much time wrapping my mind around Gen Z, and now Gen Z's like already like aging out, and it's like, dang, we're done with them.
They 20-somethings,
right? That's right. So, like, they're starting to see that, like, not only are kids like maturing earlier, like they're starting earlier, like biologically, physiologically, hormonal wise, but then adulthood is getting later and later. Yeah. Right. So you're having people being like, "Oh, I'm still young," and it's like, "Bro, you're 30.
Yeah, you ain't cool.
Like, you're not young." Yes. But they're pushing back so many things, and like, you know, there's a lot of factors that play into that. And then as far as like figuring out what each generation is facing and what questions are they asking, right?
I think that alone, and that's what I was when you said that, I was like, man, me and Jeff have talked about that a whole lot even too, and it's from Brian Ross. I think that's where it kind of got spurred originally.
That's my intellectual godfather, man.
Shout out to Ross.
We'll get him on maybe eventually, and you'll find out who he is. But we need some Patreon.
We need some money to pay
Patreon.
Brian,
he got that deep voice though.
Yeah. There you go. But I think that's really is the truth. It's like, okay, like. And that's why I have so much grace for a lot of churches like that I encounter, and that it seems like they're, you know, way behind.
Their intentions are right.
Their intention and their heart and their love for Jesus is 100% there, and I honor that. But the issue is that they're giving answers for questions that haven't been asked for generations.
Yeah, and they're using methods that worked, but not now. Like, you've got to be – this thing that I keep coming back to in this season is, like, you can't put new wine in old wineskins.
Okay.
And it's like – I'm seeing it in my seminary. I'm seeing like people having these like old structures that are rigid and like brittle, and they'll break if you try to put something new. You need a new imagination for like how to do this thing that Jesus wants to do with people. And then something you said about like it being new for this kid. Like, I mean, being a middle school teacher for 10 years, teaching 8th grade history.
You teach the same thing a lot too, right? Year after year.
5 times a day.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing. But I'm like, this is new to this group of kids.
That's right.
Right? The next year, got the same notes. I may have done some tweaking and
but
stuff.
your class is different.
They're different. They're asking different things.
Yes.
History can relate to them differently. And it's like, this is stuff that I don't even think is that important. Like, but now with the gospel, like with like theology, I'm so juiced to tell you this thing. I've said it 100,000 times, but you haven't heard it.
Here's the other thing, bro.
You know?
Here's the other thing. What happens is psychologically, sociological, anthropological. You can cut this any different way, but here's the idea. If I'm saying something from the gospel, like God wants you to have life to the full. That's like basic, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's like, bro, like Sunday school, 5 years old. But that kid's like, God, you mean God really wants me to, like, he's not trying to deny it? And that kid gets it. Well, you know what? That makes me appreciate it more. When I pass on something to my kid, right? It's like when you watching a movie with your kid and you already love it, and then they love it, and then you love that they love it, and you're like, bro, and did you know about this or that? Or you take them to Disneyland and you went on the same ride and you remember the first time you, like, there is a beauty to that in passing on these resources, and we get encouraged.
Yes.
We get encouraged, and our faith is strengthened. And this is why one of my biggest distinctions right now is how well are you doing at reaching the unchurched? Because church people's faith is reinforced when they see people. It's not just for the unchurched kid that it's like, now he gets the good news too.
Come on.
But we already had it, right? And now we just have to share. It's like, no, bro, like you getting to see that the thing you've been investing in, the thing you've been tithing towards has relevance to this kid, and the light bulb just popped on for him. Well, that's going to make you way more excited to show up to church.
Come on.
Like that's the whole thing. It reinforces it. It
Both
mutually
sides
reinforces.
get enriched.
Yes.
It's like talking about Mark's class with the interactional model of carrying the gospel. It's like, it's not just the bringer of the gospel or the receiver. That's not the only one who gets blessed.
That's right.
But the bringer and the receiver get blessed by the interaction.
Totally.
Yeah.
We both get enriched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I mean,
So how about this? Let's do this.
you wanna
Part
pause?
1 for you guys. This will be out here pretty soon. Brad, thanks so much for starting us off. Come back for part 2, which will be coming up, which will be us in the next couple minutes. For you, it'll be about 2 weeks later. But I promise you, you don't want to miss what's coming up
Come
after
back
this
for
as
part
well.
2,
Okay.
man.
So, Brad, appreciate you.